Hello everyone, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome back to another installment in my History of series for Mortal Kombat 1. With the next impending character and cameo on the horizon, I thought that today it would be the perfect opportunity to sit down and talk about the next MK cameo, the psychotic microscopic slasher of Outworld and rider of the beast Torr, Ferra. Now Ferra as well as Torr are a very interesting duo within the Mortal Kombat franchise. It's kind of impossible to talk about one without the other. You see, the introduction of the duo brought in a completely new faction and somewhat a sub-race of Outworld. Thus, you can't really talk about one without touching on the other here, as they bounce off and do largely complement each other. So today, we will be covering the history, origin, as well as the significance to that of each other. But before we do begin, as always, if you're enjoying these sorts of videos, and do wish to see more, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It's a very small thing, but it goes a very long way here, especially as recently, YouTube has actually been curbing the channel's reach. So if you just do that, it definitely does support us here. Anywho, let's dive into things. Now Ferra is still a somewhat relatively new character to that of the franchise, having been introduced within that of the reboot trilogy. She would be part of the new entourage of Outworld characters, alongside Kotal Kahn, Devourer, as well as Erron Black. But what distinguished Ferra from the rest of her cast was her unique relationship with that of Torr. You see, whilst Outworld is home to many races like Vasarians, Tarkatans, and Chitin, Ferra and Torr were a completely new and very interesting sub-race amongst Outworld, one that is actually yet to still be given an official canonical name. The two would be one of the many in their race that shared a symbiotic pairing with the other, with the eldest, Torr, acting as the beast, and Ferra herself acting as the rider. This was all part of their systematic life system, where the youth would ride, whereas the eldest would become their mounts. So throughout their lifetime, they would go from swift, smart, and very nimble creatures to large, hulking, muscular beasts. Due to the somewhat ambiguous and open nature of their creation, however, it's also actually kind of hinted at that the symbiotic life form may have actually stemmed from that of Shang Tsung's flesh pits. Yet another one of his very ambitious and hideous creations from working under Shao Kahn. Unfortunately, due to the sorcerer's absence, it's never clearly explained or explored through intros, only at best very briefly touched upon in their bio for Mortal Kombat X. Now the birth and creation of Ferra is completely unknown, as she doesn't appear in any flashbacks for Mortal Kombat X, where they could elaborate on the character's whereabouts during the events of Mortal Kombat 9 or prior to it. In between the 20-year gap of Mortal Kombat 9 to X, Ferra would be partnered with her symbiotic pair Torr, and together they would align themselves with Outworld's current Khan, Kotal. It is kind of unknown if the two actually aligned themselves with him prior to his rise to the title, as they don't feature in his private assembly where he organizes his coup against Melina, Outworld's at the time canon. Either way, in the fallout of these affairs, the two would essentially function as the muscle of Kotal's bodyguards. It's also worth mentioning before we go forward that the Mortal Kombat X comic book line that was designed to bridge the two games is now no longer considered canon. Thus, we can't actually pinpoint when these two actually encountered Kotal, only that it happened prior to the events of X, as they can be seen in service to him from that point onwards. The two make their first in-game appearance during Kung Jin's chapter. Now here, the two act as backup to Erron Black, pitting them against Cassie's team. And whilst they are capable of plucking them apart one by one, it takes the keen and patient eye of Kung Jin to place his shots and stop this assault, even striking down Ferra before she climbs back up on Torr to fight. Yet despite the sheer brute force of Torr, the duo would fail to stop the special forces, but do in turn allow Kotal enough time to arrive. This would all lead to a very temporary alliance between both sides, openly working together to crumble Melina's empire, but it is in the fall of her death where only turmoil would be sown, as the relationship between both sides would crumble, and Shinnok's amulet would be claimed by Devourer. By bringing it to the necromancer Quan Chi, the fallen elder god would be unleashed, and the Earthrealm's Jinsei would be poisoned. With a mad god on the loose, Ferra Torr would join Kotal in his assault of Earthrealm, seeking to hunt down Cassie's team, believing that by bringing their heads to the god, they would have enough time to fortify Outworld's forces. And here, Ferra Torr can be seen as quite a prominent threat, as they are part of this ambush. And although they are defeated by Jackie, this isn't enough to keep them down, as they very quickly recover to then battle Takeda, presumably beating him as he is wrapped up in his own wires. With Cassie's team surrounded, Ferra and Torr look to deal the finishing blow. That is, until they are suddenly frozen by Earthrealm's ally, the Lin Kuei, led by Sub-Zero. Now, in terms of canon and appearances, this would technically be the very last time we do actually see them, as they are mysteriously gone following the events of this game, even being completely absent on Mortal Kombat 11's roster. However, they are very loosely name-dropped in one of the many intros within the game, hinting that at some point between X and 11, the symbiotic duo may have perished to the hands of Devourer.
Have you seen Ferra Torr?
Only their corpses, Collector.
Shao Kahn will not be pleased.
Thus, it does kind of mark their last and final appearance within that of the reboot's canon. Since then, the duo have also failed to appear in that of the new era, at least in terms of mainline story, as they aren't at all canonically mentioned or even hinted at in this new era. It's maybe possible that the symbiotic race they derive from never actually came to be, as the Shang Tsung of this timeline did not have access to that of the Flesh Pits. So maybe they never came to be. In fact, the only time these two have made another appearance would actually be outside of the main timeline of games, that being the animated Elseworld movie, Mortal Kombat Snowblind. Here, they do once again play more of a henchman-like role, but instead of serving Kotal, it is instead King Kano, an iteration of the character that defeated the Titan Kronika, and then weave together this Mad Max-esque world. Once again, the two play a very minor role, but do get the somewhat rematch here against Sub-Zero, actually gaining the upper hand on the elderly gentleman. Against Scorpion, however, that is a very different tune, as the Hell Spectre is easily able to demolish them. And like that, this actually covers the history and origin of both Ferra and Torr. Unfortunately, from what you can tell, unlike their brethren in MKX, this duo did have a very brief stint, as they sadly slipped through the cracks despite their rather positive reception from the fandom. So, here's hoping that maybe down the line, we can finally see the duo pair up and return, even if we are just simply getting Ferra for now. So with that said everyone, that's been it for the history of Ferra. I do hope you have enjoyed this video and learnt more by doing so, even if it was a bit of a shorter episode for the channel. So with that said, please do keep an eye out for next week's poll, where you'll be able to vote for the next history of episode. But for now everyone, that's been it for me. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.